Once I've made the silicone mould, then basically we want to get ready to pour the resin into it. Now to do that, I'm going to put it back in exactly how it was with the Lego mould box back around it. That will help it to keep the correct shape so that there's no warpage of the inside of the mould when the resin is curing, and that way it will mean that we're not going to get a warped resin cast, which will be a slightly different shape than what it should be. To make this resin cast, I'm actually using a polyurethane fast cast resin from DWR Plastics. Now there's obviously again lots and lots of different manufacturers and sizes. This is just one of the ones that I picked up from eBay, and as you can see, this is very old bottles. I've used these lots of times before. This is a 250 gram kit which cost me about £5.90, and in that there's a part A bottle and a part B bottle, both of which have about 125 grams of liquid in each one. Now again, this is supposed to be measured 1-to-1 ratio by weight, but again I find that it's actually much simpler and much quicker just measuring the ratio by volume. So if I use 2 parts of part A, then I'll use 2 parts of part B, and as you can see, I've used this spoon for many casting projects. It would probably be much better to use a plastic disposable spoon, but I've had this spoon for many years, and so it's got lots and lots of resin build-up on it. Once the 2 parts are in a mixing bowl, again something disposable, because you're going to get hard resin forming on that, which you're not really going to be able to get rid of very easily, so it's better to throw away the container. Once it's in there, and you're going to have to mix it up and make sure it's mixed really well together. Next step, of course, is then to pour the resin into your mould. Now you've got probably about 2 minutes before the resin gets to a point where it will be too hard to do anything decent with. So while it's nice and liquid, I'm going to carefully and slowly pour it into the mould. Again, you want quite a slow pour because you don't want any air bubbles getting trapped in there. Air bubbles that might already be in the mould, just because of the shape of the mould, you want to try and get rid of. So that's why I'm moving it from side to side to try and move that resin into any pockets which might be in the hollow of the mould, to make sure that there's no voids, because that will mean that there will be missing plastic in the final cast. Again, that's why I am tapping on the sides to try and remove air bubbles, and once we've done that, I'm going to just fill it right up to the top and even slightly overflowing with some more resin. I find that the resin is fully cured in about an hour. So when that's done, you can then disassemble your mould box and remove your silicone mould. You can then try and find where you've cut it. You can see here, like I said before, it's almost self-healing, so I'm actually finding it a little bit of a struggle to find where that cut is. Once you open it up, you want to carefully remove the resin cast. You want to do that so that you do it as carefully as possible. If you pull it too far or too fast, then you will end up ripping the silicone mould and you won't be able to use it again. You can see here this has come out really nicely actually, this cast, and it's picked up all of the details of the mould. Here you can see that I've trimmed away the excess mould flashing that we don't really need, the extra resin. I've just used a hobby knife to cut that off at the bottom and along the seam line. Could use a Dremel or some sandpaper. You can see it's really picked up the detail nicely, and compared to the original glow-in-the-dark figure, it's already showing up the detail much better.